Let's make a character. So you've got the 2024 Play Handbook for D&D, and you've got a character sheet. Where do you start? I might start on page 49, looking at my class options. I might see there that the cleric option speaks to me. I'll pick that class and I'll add it onto my character sheet. And so to find out more, I'll go to page 69. The cleric has a list of traits, so I'll copy that over. To start off with, first I have the class of cleric. I have my hit dice of a d8 plus my constitution modifier. Because of my hit dice, my starting HP becomes what the maximum of the roll being 8 plus my con modifier again. As a cleric, I have the saving throws of wisdom and charisma. I have a list of skills to pick, but I always save that choice for later. Check the armor training and thrown in my weapon proficiencies. And lastly, I've saved the option A for equipment onto my character sheet down here. Next, on page 70, I'll add in the first level class features, Divine Order, Spellcasting, my proficiency bonus of 2, and the extra numbers for my spellcasting. There are too many words with our spellcasting feature to occupy the character sheet, so I've turned that into a reference to my details of spellcasting on page 69 and on page 235 through to 238. And on 238, it explains that here we add our wisdom modifier to our spell casting. So let's scroll down to there. Our spell save DC will become 10 plus our wisdom. Our spell casting attack modifier will be 2 plus wisdom. Now I've also checked in our spell slots, spell zone, and cantrips. 0 to signify our cantrips and 1 for our level 1 spells. The book has suggested cantrips Guidance, Sacred Flame, and Thaumaturgy. I personally don't feel like any of these are bad options, so we'll take those. Meanwhile, our spells are special. We can change them every long rest. However, it's probably good to find a few we'll use regularly. The book suggests that we take these first level spells: Bless, Cure Wounds, Guiding Bolt, and Shield of Faith. Each are good, but if we change our mind, we have a list of our spells on page 71. So, just to make this quick, I'll speed through and make usable notes. There we go. Now, if I go back to Divine Order, it's a feature with two options. The first option gives me all armor, weapon training, proficiencies. However, for this character, I'm focused on a more peaceful, quintessential cleric. So I'll take the other one where I can grab the resistance cantrip, which I'll add in a moment. And it will also give a bonus to my religion checks based on my wisdom. I'll keep that up here for now, but I'll have to remind myself to remove it later. With that all done, let's head over to Character Origin, page 177. The next page has our religious pious peaceful background of Acolyte, so I'll add those details in here. Now, as you can see, my background is Acolyte. My ability scores to improve for our mental stats will be 2 for wisdom and 1 for intelligence. I've now insight and religion proficiencies. I've also added calligrapher supplies to our cool proficiencies down here. I've added option A to my equipment list down here further while combining the gold. And lastly, I've gained the magic initiative. The cleric option is a feat. The details for that I go to page 201. Essentially, it gives me 2 more cleric cantrips and another first level cleric spell with 1 free casting per long rest. This spell can be changed after leveling up, so I think we should pick a staple spell so we don't need to worry about changing it. For cantrips, let's take the Spare the Dying cantrip and Word of Radiance. And for spells, let's take Healing Word. It's not as effective as Cure Wounds, but it's more versatile. And now I know this, I can just say added and mention the 1 healing word used per long rest. As for species, I cannot think of a more group connected with the deities and the Azamar. Page 186 has those details, so I'll add them in. And so, firstly, we have our species Azamar. Second, our size is medium with a base movement speed of 30. Third, we have a feature called Celestial Resilience, giving me resistance to necrotic and radiant damage. Fourth is Dark Vision, giving us the ability to see in the dark up to 60 feet. Fifth is Healing Hands, a magic action I can use to touch and heal someone 2d4 hit points once per long rest. Sixth is Light Barrier, basically giving us another cantrip, Light Cantrip. So I'm going to add this feature and just keep the feature in the species trait as added. Seventh and lastly is Celestial Revelation, a third level feature we don't have to worry about at this moment. Now, back on page 37, we're told we get 3 languages. I'm going to be taking Common, Celestial, and Draconic for something different. Next page over, page 38, we get our core stat options. Now, the book suggests for Cleric 14, 8, 13, 10, 15, 12. However, I do not care for strength for a cleric, so I'm going to be switching that up to 8, 10, 14, 13, 15, 12. And with that sorted, we can recheck our acolyte background options. So I'm going with 1 point into intelligence and 2 into wisdom. This fixes our base number stats. On page 38, we can also then deduce the modifiers. So let's add those in. And done. Now we have 2 skills to pick from our list of 5, thanks to being a cleric. However, we got 2 of these from being an acolyte, meaning we basically need to pick either history, medicine, or persuasion, which 2 of those 3. So I'm taking history and medicine. Now my skills are selected. I can do all the filling in of my core saving throws and skill checks. Each field is based on the respective stat modifier. If the skill or saving throw has proficiency, I add this +2 to that field also, not to mention my divine order feature. So I'll do that now. Just as a quick reminder, our initiative is based on our dexterity modifier, and our passive perception is based on 10 plus our perception skill over here in wisdom. To speed through the rest, we're using a mace, which I'll put here, where we can find more details about on page 215. But since that is our only weapon, I've also put up our 2 main damaging cantrips and our damaging spell, Guiding Bolt. What you will find that is for the mace, like most weapons, we'll add our strength modifier to our proficiency bonus to the hit with the weapon, bringing our bonus to only a +1. And in terms of mace weapon damage, it's a 1d6 plus our strength modifier, which is negative bludgeoning damage. It's not great, we could end up doing no damage, but it's at least something. Also, in terms of equipment, on page 219, the chain shirt we picked up from our cleric class tells us we get an AC of 13 plus our dex modifier. Our dex modifier is 0, so it's 13. That's okay because we also have a shield, and on the same page it tells us our AC is boosted by 2 more. So let's tick that off. And so there is our level 1 character. Now I'm going to call them Talula Buckman. She goes by she and her pronouns. She is like an angel, a mix of Cleopatra, Joan of Arc, and Aphrodite. She stands high above her fellow acolytes and was scouted early to become an adventurer. But this is only level 1, so let's take it up to level 3. And so now, attaining 900 experience and the DM has given us the thumbs up, we are allowed to level up. Before I go into changes from my class, on page 42, the book discusses character advancement. In particular, it goes into hit points. For tally, we are taking the average of our hit dice, 4.5, round it up to 5, and add our constitution modifier. That will be +7. But since we get to level up twice, it's 14. Starting from our base 10, our new hit points is 24, and the same goes for our maximum. Next, we go back to page 70 and check what has changed and what has been added to my cleric features on the table. I see channel divinity, cleric subclass, and a few changes to our spellcasting. So let's copy these details down. Now, channel divinity is a feature that starts with two uses for now. One use is regained per short rest, and all uses are regained per long rest. We have three options in our channel divinity, two from our class and the third from our subclass. So I'll put down the first two. Divine Spark, which requires a magic action to use, targets one visible creature within 30 feet, is a flexible 1d8 plus 3 healing, all the same amount as damage to the target versus a constitution saving throw. Our next option is Turn Undead. This is not turning our Aasimar character into an undead creature. This is instead a magic action to use. It has a 30-foot radius effect on all undead near me versus a wisdom saving throw, or they get frightened and incapacitated. And while under this effect, for the next minute, they can only use their movement to flee from me. As for subclasses, if I want the quintessential cleric, what everyone thinks of as a cleric, between the options of life, light, trickery, and war, the life domain stands out to me, and therefore, life class cleric we will be. So I'll put that on our sheet now. On page 73, we get our first few subclass bonus. But to kick us off, I'm jumping onto our feature Preserve Life, because it's our third channel divinity option. It is a stronger heal than Divine Spark for a hurting team. It is a magic action, range 30 foot based on our level, and it heals 15 HP to bloodied creatures of my choice, but it cannot heal them to get them out of bloody, only up to the halfway point on their health. If you want to know what bloodied is, go to page 362. Next, Disciple of Life feature. This is very straightforward to write down. Spell slots with healing heal an extra 2 HP plus the spell's level. Easy. Finally, we get the life domain spells. These are extra learnt and prepared spells we get for just loving healing. The only thing is that these are fixed and cannot be changed. We get aid and lesser restoration to second level spells, and less with cure wounds. Two spells we happened to pick earlier. So let's add the others in. Now, outside of these fixed ones, I'll put in square brackets, and the spell we gained from our feat, we must prepare 6 spells of any combination of first and second level. Just remember, we have 4 spell slots in first level and 2 in second level. Page 71 contains our options, and after a quick review, I'm going with Guiding Bolt, Shield of Faith, Sanctuary, Calm Emotions, Silence, and Gentle Repose. So I'll add those in. And so those are done. Obviously, you can rearrange them for yourself to make it more sense, maybe more numerical, but that's what I've just done here very quickly. Before I go on, now I remember that we have a species trait called Celestial Revelation. So let's get into that. And so back on page 186 of Aasimar, we see Celestial Revelation. Now I've found it's way too wordy to fit into either of these boxes, species traits, feats, or even class features. So I've decided to jump it down here into the backstory section. Basically, I get to a 1 use per long rest transformation. And while transformed, I deal extra damage to my spells or damaging attacks. And in addition, I get to choose one of the 3 forms below to exuberate. One gives me heavenly wings, allowing me to fly. One gives me an inner radiance, which burns radiant damage to creatures around me. And another is necrotic shroud, which frightens those by a dreaded appearance that I take on. And that is everything. Talula Buckman, an Aasimar, a cleric of the Life Domain, and a former acolyte, is ready for her own D&D adventure.